When we set the topic for today's forum on gun violence some months ago, we had no idea how the dates would coincide to say this was the right time to talk about this. Day by day, the newspapers report one after another of these incidents of tragic killings. How is this happening and why? Paul Helmke is here to explore these questions with us. He's the president of the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence and the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence in America, and a three-time mayor of Fort Wayne, Indiana, where he first became involved in gun violence issues.
I've got no problem with someone who's a legitimate gun owner, wants the gun for hunting, wants the gun for sport shooting, wants the gun for collecting, even wants the gun for self-protection and knows the responsibilities that go with the gun. But I think what we've done as a society is we're almost pushing guns. I sometimes refer to some of the folks on the other side as gun pushers. They're trying to get more of these out there, sort of the way that drug pushers push some things, because it's addictive, because it gives a sense of power, because it gives a sense of control. And then the more guns that are out there, the more violence we see. The more violence we see, the more people get afraid. The more people get afraid, the more guns they buy. And then the cycle just keeps continuing, and that's great for business, but it's bad for communities.
America has probably always had something of a love affair with guns. Is it really worse now than 10, 20, 30 years ago? And if so, why?
I think clearly what's worse now are the number of guns and the power, the lethality of guns. Guns have always been an issue in our country, but you go back to the Revolutionary time and you had a gun that took a long time to reload, to fire. It was one shot basically at the time. Lexington and Concord, you weren't getting many rounds off. And then as we've gone along, we've used technology to make guns more serious. We haven't used technology to make guns any safer. And I think when we see our gun laws being so weak in this country, we really only have, at the national level, 3 sets of laws. We've got laws restricting machine guns. That goes back to the Al Capone era. And actually, that's been fairly successful. You don't see machine guns, fully automatic weapons used that often. We've got a Gun Control Act of 1968 that said some people shouldn't be able to buy guns, like felons and the dangerously mentally ill. And we've got the Brady bill that says let's double check on this. But that's all we've got in the books. We allowed an assault weapons ban to expire in 2004. We've made it harder for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms to release data on how illegal guns are trafficked. We've made it impossible, nearly impossible, to sue gun manufacturers and gun dealers, even if they're negligent. They're the only industry in the country that you can't even go to the courthouse and file a lawsuit against. They're not regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. They and tobacco are the only 2 industries not regulated. So we've taken steps while the guns have become more powerful and more accessible. We've taken steps for it to be harder to regulate them or restrict them in any way. And with that, when you combine that with the popular culture, the idea that any person can take care of themselves, I do think we have a greater problem today than we had certainly 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. I think what happens then is that the media and the politicians sort of say, oh, just another shooting. It's kind of like we had another tornado in Iowa, we had another shooting in New York, and we treat it as a natural disaster that we can't control. And I keep pleading with people, trying to get through to people that this is something that doesn't have to happen. We'll always have violence. We'll always have humanity's going to be sinful. But there are things that we can do to make it harder for dangerous people to get these guns. There are things we can do to make our community safer. Other countries have figured this out. Other countries react to mass shootings by taking steps that really help make their country safer. We react to mass shootings with, gee, that's too bad, and now's not the time to talk policy, and then by the next day you're on the next news cycle and talking about the president's dog or something.